was just relating, and it just stuck with me after last time when you were talking about, opening the eye to the heart. And as Fondiar, he was with you 2 times when that happened. I was wondering, how do you think he may have been like the catalyst for that to happen?
I would say he was probably having that experience on a regular basis.
Oh, okay. And,
so I just got a contact high.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was like,
I once asked him what his experience was, and what he said is he would go into a state of communion with Baba, but he would have to leave his mind at the threshold. His mind and heart at the threshold. He would go into this state of communion, and in that communion, if form appeared, every form was Baba. But if there was no form, he just experienced the infinite ocean of divine love.
Yeah, that seems to be a big theme, is really spending the time, like Charles Haynes was talking about last night, where you just, in the morning, you spend that time and you meditate on Baba, and then, you may not get an answer, but he said your day is the answer. Whatever happens in that.
Yeah.
You have a question, so.
No, I do feel hey, good. I see Kellyan and Daniel.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, stay right here. Yeah, I think that what we do in the early morning, I mean, here's kind of how I envisioned Darwin, is he and Baba would like chop up some vegetables in the early morning, put them in a Teflon pan, stir them up. And Darwin would serve all the vegetables out of there all during the day. And at the end of the day, he would just turn the Teflon pan upside down. Nothing would stick, He would share everything, but nothing ever stuck. He wasn't there cleaning the pan at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of beautiful in that way, but the early morning, I think Darwin was very emphasized being proactive about your early morning, because that you can, instead of just waking up in a bad mood and letting your bad mood fuel your day, you create a kind of a special place and a feeling, a kind of centeredness, and then that's what fuels your day.
Yeah, I always swore when I retired that's what I would do, but I haven't been to. I have to keep at it. I have to work on it.
Yeah, no, it's well worth it. Yeah, and they probably told you how I saw Baba about 3 or 4 days after he dropped his body.
Yeah, I heard it from you.
In the Hasty Tasty.
Yeah.
Where, Jeff? In a Hasty Tasty?
It was a greasy spoon kind of hamburger joint in the U District, where Baba appeared to 3 of us about 3 or 4 days after he dropped his body. He came and sat in the chair next to me. Yeah, that's another whole story, but yeah. He's still here. He could be in the seat right next to you. I mean, he is in the seat right next to you. It's just, I've said before, what I gather from Darwin and Erich is the proper use of the imagination is to imagine Baba is right there with you, because it is in fact true. Rather than imagine that you're going to be a famous rock star or something like that, which is probably not going to be true. But, he is right there with us. And eventually we'll see that he's been there all along. But it wasn't that he just finally showed up after years. He was there all along. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have a beautiful dream with Baba recently.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, God. What happened?
I mean, it just, just to see him in the same place in his form, it was gorgeous, that it was 1969. And apparently it was to allay some of my worries that he's not really here. So here's his body, 1969. I'm like, what do we do? I'm asking, what do we do now? Do we put a sheet over him?
Uh-huh. You mean, so he had dropped his body?
He just dropped his body and it's laying there.
Yeah.
And I say, what do we do now? And then he just rolls over. He's like fully alive, and he rolls over and he gives me this beaming look.
Oh, great.
It's just like being with him while he was in the body. So
Yeah.
I was such a blessing. But also, people have this weird query. All right, I need to be with a living master. And I was not asking any of that. Is he alive? Is he qualified as a living master? Because I have full faith in Baba, but it was obviously addressing something in me which needed to see his living form.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't had a dream of Baba since the 70s. You'd think I would.
You only get what you need, right?
Well, I get to live off of your dreams, you know.
All right. You can have that one.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll incorporate that into my experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the Gaelic word for Mazel Tov. It's Slainte, Slante. So raise your glass, okay? Oh, my beloved, Ambrose is only beginning to really see the friend. How else can he accept what before him is presented, and now perceives it to be the light at journey's end? Then remembers, after all, it was forever consented. He stands in awe, this traveler weary, no more blinded by what he sees. For the wine shop door is opened, so make haste to get there. Oh, beloved, your response makes me woefully sad as inner teardrops begin to form. For I want to reach out and pull in the good and the bad, so all of us will have shelter from the coming storm. And consciousness is shifting even ere I speak. The forces of intellect are losing ground. None can stop this inevitable leak. Who now can ignore the world's craziness as it continues its daily round? Where, oh where can we seek surcease from the ravages of quakings and shakings and toppling suppositions, to find that somewhere our hearts be released, where no more we need battle Maya's opposition. Let me tell you a secret, my fellow beings, and please bear with my poetic prose. While experiencing in kind fortunes gained and lost, most from being led by my nose, while seeing life, though I was really blind, that through many a year of ceaseless chatter, laughs and sobs and copious tears, only if we could ever remember that love truly is all that matters. Okay,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you. One of the few people who write poetry in rhyme nowadays. Rhymes and internal rhymes.
Yeah.
Should we have a few moments of silence here?
That would be great.
Jai Baba.
We're on page 47 in the book, Spiritual Fulfillment. That's the last subsection of a chapter.
I think most of you know, that we go through the book kind of section by section, and Angela will choose people out there, and you are free to pass or you can read. And we read the whole section, and then if people have questions or want to chime in or give examples of something that Darwin might have to say, that's excellent. Now I'm going to just read the last couple of sentences on the gate of the heart, the previous section we read, where Darwin says, "We do not try to love people per se, but instead make efforts to achieve the glow of love in the heart. This glow results in a radiating love and leads to a natural giving out of love." And that reminds me, I mean, Baba says love must love. And Darwin used to really encourage working with the flow of love coming through you and out to the world and into Baba within. And in fact, he said we're meant to be fluidic. Now, fluidic is not a word I usually associate with people, but he said we are meant to be fluidic. And unfortunately, there's the challenge there that we all come up against, which is we encounter some negative reaction to somebody or some situation. And so very often the flow of love stops, and Darwin said that's where you have to work at pushing through that so that the flow of love doesn't stop at our negative reactions. But he didn't say, but the intention is to be aware of the negative reactions, but flow through it. In fact, he would say, whatever you don't flow to or through, you diminish yourself by that much. So it's important to always be flowing, but that flow is sometimes wise not to express that flow of love outwardly, because it may not be appropriate. So it can be invisible inside, or if the situation calls for an outer expression, fine. But anyway, that's a lot of the work of this book is to push through those blocks that we have and flow out to the world around us and into Baba. So that's my spiel.
Spiritual fulfillment. Meher Baba's discourses provide explanations about love and how we narrow down our consciousness when we really ought to do the opposite. Expand our consciousness toward this kind of love. This brings us a new understanding of what fulfillment is. True fulfillment is spiritual fulfillment, which lies in spiritual expression rather than in obtaining objects or personal achievements. This is one of the lessons that we learn the hard way, more or less, because we do like to get things. So it is in giving and allowing love to flow, rather than in getting, that we experience fulfillment. When we love, we do not need to have our love reciprocated, because we are already experiencing fulfillment. Love is its own fulfillment, and to love is to be fulfilled. This ultimately becomes what Baba calls divine love, in which there is no thought of self at all. We experience complete dependence upon the grace of God within. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. That's an extraordinary thing that Darwin says, especially this line, when we love, we do not need to have our love reciprocated because we are already experiencing fulfillment. What a beautiful thing.
Giving our all. The whole creation is a play of thoughts, the outcome of the mind. It is your mind that binds you. It is also the mind that is the means of your freedom. You are eternally free. You are not bound at all. Meher Baba. The soul is never contaminated. It is eternal, sovereign, pure, free, untrammeled, and untarnished. And we are that soul. This is our great consolation, that we are the soul. We are free. So let us be free. Give everything to the Master and be free. Enjoy freedom of the heart, freedom of the consciousness. It is a great privilege to be incarnated now. Become free in this lifetime. The ultimate reality is not an object apart from us, apart from everything. It is all-inclusive, timeless, and already among us. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. It is within each one of us. It is not something that is in outer space somewhere, nor is it in the future any more than it is in the past. It is not an object in the future, but is always in the present. It is always here with us. Only one person here and there becomes aware of it, but sooner or later, it is everyone's destiny to realize the ultimate reality and be free. Jesus gave us the key to realizing the truth with his words, "Leave all and follow me." Leave all your attachments and impressions, those numberless things that bind you so firmly to your limited self, and follow the perfect master or the avatar, who is, Baba says, the only one beyond the bondage of sanskaras. He leads us to our infinite self, that which is always within. Accept the Master's infinite being as part of your nature. Accept and be sustained by his grace. Grace is not something we achieve, but something we receive. It is not something we add to what we are, but is what happens when we learn to let go of our backlog of burdens. It comes as a pure gift and is an expression of the Master's love for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like kind of way too philosophical for me. And the line that it's a great privilege to be incarnated now, I've been just thinking exactly the opposite. Like, why the hell am I sitting here for 3 months alone, you know, in the middle of a pandemic? And now it's getting even worse with all these protests and civil unrest. So I don't really feel like it's a great privilege to be incarnated now.
Yeah.
Sorry if I spoil your spiritual type.
Yeah, you ruined our day now. Yeah, but as I say, we're very fortunate we have something to give to Baba. How you're feeling, I mean, I always say, I'm glad I have something to give, even if it's garbage, So whatever he stirs up in you, you can give to him, and you get rid of it little by little. So there are no good times and bad times, really.
This feels like the worst time I've ever.
Yeah. You know what Baba said? I just, digressing here, but Mansari, she was one of the women Mandalay up in the hill. Mm-hmm. And she said, Baba said this. He said, during the Kali Yuga, Baba said, this much effort gives you, I'm spread my arms out wide, this much progress. In the golden age, this much effort, my arms are out wide, gives you just this much progress. Mm-hmm. So this is a time where you can grow. With this much effort, you get this much progress. In the golden age, when everything's fine, You got to do a lot of work just to get this much. That's what Baba said.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm not sure how much effort I'm putting into things.
oh, I'm sure you are. More than you think. Anyone else?
I hope I can articulate this. I mean, it was just what you said about the effort. And then but when we came to that sentence, grace is not something we achieve, but something we receive. It almost feels like a gift is being given to us without much effort. But I suppose the effort is in letting go of our backlog of burdens.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wanted to say. And then the other was sort of in response to what, let me put my glasses on. I don't know her name, but the only other woman who just
Tina.
spoke before me, Tina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It does seem to me that this is a very difficult time to be alive. And I'm not much of a student of history, but I know there have been many times where it's been difficult. It seems like it's the worst time and a very difficult time to be alive. And when we're in these meetings and reading this book, it just seems so real. You know, what's in the book seems so real and beautiful. And yet sometimes during the week, when like you, I have been by myself for 3 months, I live alone and it's hard. And I guess I just want to say it's sort of hard to sustain this wonderful hour or 2 hours throughout the whole week.
Yeah.
But I'm at least very glad that we have these 2 hours.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, it's, what was the first thing you said there?
About the sentence where this is not,
yeah.
It's almost like the grace is a gift,
Yeah.
not something we achieve, but something we receive, like it's Baba's grace. That was the first comment.
Baba has said, I mean, quite clearly that our effort draws his grace. You know, our efforts draw his grace. So it's not like we're just sitting there passively and it falls in our lap, but sometimes it does. But there's a Sufi line that the truth we tell of cannot be found by seeking, yet only seekers find it.
Oh.
Yeah. Because they draw the grace and they get it.
Yeah, I wanted to say that after having an opportunity to be with Charles on Zoom last night for 2.5 hours, I felt that I was at the wine shop. And when he talked about his Baba, and that my Baba was my Baba, and it was probably different than his, it just somehow freed me with my Baba inside. And so I was very happy. Thank you so much, Angela, that you didn't even realize how important it was for me to read this today, because I've been feeling some freedom, and that's just such a gift. So the whole first page talking about the freedom that we really have, that we're bound by our mind, but that our mind also takes us to freedom. I mean, wow, what an incredible thing. Erich told me that. So here it is. Mayor Bob is telling me that. So I hate to be such an upper, but geez, I just really enjoyed reading about my freedom here. The freedom of my heart, the freedom of my consciousness, and it being a great privilege to be incarnated now. And I think probably because of Baba being incarnated in my lifespan, that I'm just so fortunate. And so I guess, yeah, it's hard. This thing has been hard. No, I don't live alone. I have a partner, but you know what? We get into it and scrap like cats and dogs. And then we have to go into our corners and deal with our anger and come back and then have some growing together. So I've kind of, I hate to be the upper in all this, but
I'm feeling my freedom today. Thank you very much.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
But it is a really interesting time to be alive. And I agree. I think it is a privilege. It's definitely a paradox. But on top of everything going on, my dad died of a massive heart attack suddenly in the middle of the pandemic, very unexpectedly. And so we've been dealing with that as well. And I don't say that to be a negative. We had an extraordinarily complicated relationship in which we were estranged for many years. And thanks to Baba and the 12 steps, I was able to, the last 2 years make amends and have a really harmonious relationship, which was amazing. And I just had to share a little Baba something, because my family almost immediately started kind of fighting about money and the will and all this crazy stuff. And if any of you guys know Billy, who's at the center quite a bit, I think he's just touched with Baba. I mean, I just really feel Baba with Billy. And so Billy at 7:30 on a Tuesday night, when I'm at home in the middle of all this, like, can't even believe people are thinking about this, I get this quote from Billy, and I just have to read it, because to me, this is just an example that, you're going through all this crazy stuff and Baba just is still here. And he just says this is what he sent to me. He knew nothing about what I was going through, by the way. Baba says, I may give you more, much more than you expect, or maybe nothing. And that nothing may prove to be everything. So I say, come with open hearts to receive much or nothing from the divine beloved. Come to receive not so much of my words, but of my silence. And, since then I found out that I've got nothing from my father, cut out completely. And in the midst of protests, in the midst of pandemic, in the midst of all this craziness, I have this crazy peace. And every morning I get up 2 hours earlier because I'm reading this book and I'm just blissed out and it doesn't make sense. And I'm not being negative, I'm not putting my head in the sand. I understand that this is, there's a lot going on. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I'm just saying that I feel so grateful to be alive and to be able to experience this, because I'm really, I just thank you for all of this. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I need to get this off my heart. So thank you.
Thank
That's
you,
all.
Ivy. Very lovely. Wow. Love to old Billy there too. God.
He's the best.
Yeah. No, Baba's right there helping us behind the scenes more than we would ever imagine. I know Mara once said, if you were to thank Baba for all that he's done for you, your whole life would not be long enough.
Beautiful.
I love this giving Baba your garbage. I learned it in a song from one of a Baba songs about I guess that Bao also talked about giving your garbage to Baba a lot, and what an effort that can be, to remember to give it to him and to want to give it to him. But I've been reading this. It's an apocryphal book. It's the Acts of John, and it's called The Hymn of the Dance. And it reminded me of this whole idea of giving Baba your garbage. It says, if you knew how to suffer, you would be able not to suffer. So if you knew how to suffer, you would be able not to suffer. Learn how to suffer and you shall be able not to suffer. And that seems so paradoxical. And I think it speaks to me of the same paradox of giving Baba, remembering to give Baba my problems and my suffering and my garbage, which is difficult in the moment, but then makes this connection with him for me.
Yeah. Yeah, when you love someone, you share everything, and, good, bad, and ugly.
Yes. After hearing Tina, I felt like sharing Mehra's message, Christmas message of 1988 to Kitty and others at the Meher Spiritual Center. I'm going by memory, but her message has helped me a lot of times, almost on a daily basis. So I'll just recite that message and hopefully it'll be helpful to someone. She sent this, and by the way, Baba said Mehra and I are one. So, her message is basically equivalent to Baba's message. She said, always keep beloved Avatar Meher Baba in your hearts and in your thoughts. Remember, it is not the speed with which you obtain your objectives in life that counts, but the time you spare and want to share with your beloved that really matters. So with every step you take in life, remember and try to please beloved Baba, who is always with you, helping and guiding you on your journey home to himself, who is the source of all goodness and light. I like the fact that she said, it's not your objectives in life. She didn't say material objectives. Anything that we have with respect to our objectives, they can be spiritual too. They're not as important as just spending time with Baba, including the moments that we are spending right now.
Beautiful. She sent another message to the center where gave the image of as you're racing through life, you have these speed bumps of that cause you to remember him. You're if there weren't any speed bumps, you just race from one end of creation to the other. But those speed bumps are those times when you have to remember Baba, and those are often the difficulties. I wish I had that. I don't have the actual quote, but that was the gist of it. Yeah. Thank you, though. That was great. Very touching.
As the soul, we are beyond Maya and nothing can bind us. However, we must withdraw our consciousness from the realm of ego desires and develop love for God, love for the Master. I liken the withdrawal of consciousness from the gross realm to withdrawing invisible tentacles, like those sea creatures whose tentacles constantly float out trolling for food. We extend unseen tentacles into the gross world, seeking experiences. Spreading out our tentacles only binds us all the more. In other words, to express our desires is to multiply them. So why do we reach out for things in the world? We are seeking distraction. We feel that something is missing, that we will be happier if we have this or that. Really, we are looking for truth. But we get distracted by Maya and then seem to forget that God is what we really want. Baba says, most of man's suffering is self-created through his ungoverned desires and impossible demands. All this is unnecessary for self-fulfillment. If man becomes desireless and contented, he will be free from his self-inflicted suffering. His imagination will not be constantly harassed by feverish reaching toward things that really do not matter. I think that's probably reaching out toward things that really do not matter. And he will be established in unassailable peace. I'll try that again. If man becomes desireless and contented, he will be free from his self-inflicted suffering. His imagination will not be constantly harassed by feverish reaching out toward things that really do not matter, and he will be established in unassailable peace. Thankfully, we are constant learners, and one day we will learn to direct our forces within. It is a matter of maturing. True spiritual progress is best made by the mature person, one who is ready to turn away from the gross realm. As I have said before, I feel that part of Meher Baba's manifestation is to drive everyone to the spiritual life. But even when people are following a spiritual path, many are not aware that they still have tentacles groping for things in the gross and subtle worlds. So at the outset, we have to learn how to withdraw these tentacles and direct them inwardly. Not that we are going to become introverts per se, but we become explorers within. We are going to explore who we are and what we have inside of us, such as our samskaras. We need to become aware that we already have unlimitedness and inner freedom, and make use of them in our consciousness.
I said the words that come to mind is Darwin is inviting us to go spiritual mining and excavating within ourselves to uproot some of, with the help of the master, to uproot some of the root causes of our ailments and let them naturally come to surface. So I had a interesting dream this morning, which was very surprising. So I'm thinking this discourse is very, very apropos, which made me aware of something I was not aware of. I thought I had put it past me. So it was really nice to get it up, to come up to the surface and consciously and willfully release it.
Yeah, beautiful. Darwin's idea of withdrawing the tentacles from being enmeshed in the world, being enmeshed in our emotions, being enmeshed in our thoughts, is a great image. But when the tentacles are withdrawn, tentacles of consciousness are withdrawn, it doesn't mean that we lose consciousness of the things that we've withdrawn from. If you withdraw from your emotions, you get a view of your emotions from outside, which is actually more of a whole view of your emotions. When you withdraw the tentacles of consciousness from the mind, you're kind of outside your mind and you can see your thoughts in front of you. So it's not like you just pull out and then you leave it all behind. You get a much more, you get a view of it that is much wider of the body and the mind and the heart.
Will you raise your hand again?
Good. Can you hear me now?
You're good.
Oh, great. I think, Jeff, what you just said speaks to what I was going to mention. So it's kind of duplicated in some regard. But both of us had this 50 years of experience of working on ourselves. And I find that after it's all said and done up to now, everything that I worked on and overcame is still there, but it's not something that I bother about anymore.
Not something what?
I no longer bother about it. It cropped out of nowhere, just here, there, and everywhere. It's unavoidable, and I've always looked at that happening as a gift back to me, in a sense that, oh yeah, I used to be that way, but I'm not that way anymore, thank God. That kind of thing. But also the tentacles that still exist, and there's probably more than I could even count. I just take it as a matter of course that it's my destiny to be whatever they are, and when they show up, just work on them. And not really get into a worry, because that's no good. And if I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
So that has a sort of contentment.
Yeah, beautiful. So true.
And Patty Curtis has her hand up.
Hi, Jay Baba.
Yeah.
I just was listening to everyone, and in regards to, from the very beginning when I tuned in, the people that spoke about being alone and having different bad feelings and the positive feelings, and about this time and these, with this last segment of listening to the tentacles of having to withdraw them in order if we would just remove our consciousness from them. It's reminding me that this space of time, timeless time now, this isolation, I see it as a gift as well. The opportunity has been intensified for us to have a introspective, clearer view of those tentacles that we're reaching to, also of his grace, because I see this time for those of us who have been aware of Baba, who hold him as the avatar, to use this time to, in whatever way, show the effort to the beloved, so the beloved then arises more fully through us. And I see it all working together with the opportunity for freedom, real freedom on the in the illusion to manifest, because we are free. And so all the protests, everything that's happening in the play of life is just a reflection of the opportunity that we all have right now. I mean, I see it as extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Jai Baba.
Yeah, I agree.
Jai Baba.
Amen.
Prodigal sons. We think of the Avatar or Messiah as the one with divine power and authority to remove all of our burdens and give us salvation with a sweep of his eyelashes. Well, Mayor Baba could do that, and he would give us brief experiences like that now and then. But he has also pointed out, especially in his discourses, that while he is with us all the time, helping us, and his grace is always with us, we do have to do some work in the Aegean stables of our subconscious, where our sanskaras sit waiting for expression. Around Baba, the problem of dealing with sanskaras was given immediate attention. The heart center would open almost imperceptibly, and without any outward sign, Baba would remove a whole host of inner barriers. Waves of love that were coming from Baba all the time would break down the ego, melt the heart, and dissolve massive amounts of one's sanskaric rubbish. And Baba's precious love glances, which remain indelibly imprinted on my consciousness, would convey the beauty and sweetness of the divine beloved. Soon I would find myself swimming in the ocean of light and love. I would experience an instantaneous lifting of veils so that I could see more clearly within. Inner realms of his being would be revealed to my consciousness, and I would have the experience of seeing God everywhere. These experiences were the means Baba used to inspire me to continue making efforts to decondition my mind of sanskaras, as Baba says we must do. This meant that I had to discover what I was thinking, feeling, and doing that I would have to discontinue, and what other thoughts, feelings, and actions I would have to adopt. So we have to keep working in order to retain that inner freedom. We have to discover what we need to do. It is a refining process. In this way, we gradually get spiritual understanding and will sustain these experiences of inner freedom. As Jesus said, "If we continue in my word, then ye are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Wow, this is a long one. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Through asserting the truth, we banish the false. Our ideal, the one to which we aspire, becomes a fact. All of this is done not just through self-effort, but also through enlisting the aid of the Master himself. So we have to accept his grace and interior help. As our friend, he is continuously working for our liberation. Because of his confidence in us, we can have confidence in ourselves, but without egoism. If we lack faith in ourselves, we are in danger of allowing our weaknesses to block our give and take relationship with him. So continuously sustaining these experiences of inner freedom means continuous inner work, keeping out the level of illusory conditions, which we ourselves have been continuously creating, and staying focused on the Master within, with full confidence and joy. His grace is always there, and he is more anxious than we are that we make this transition from the false to the real self. To him, we are the prodigal sons returning home.
I love it. We're all Baba's prodigal sons and daughters that he's welcoming home. I just am somehow delighted that we get to be in that role. It's so true. Thank you, Baba.
Yeah, good. You know, this reminds me, Kitty, one of Kitty's favorite lines of Rumi was, I never knew that he too desired me. Meaning, one thing she used to express is that she was surprised, you know, when people were following Jesus and you're trying to kind of win his approval and get close to him and everything. And that's sometimes how people following Jesus experience it. But Kitty found that Baba was actually more eager to unite with them, more eager to come forward to them than they were in trying to embrace him. It was, you know, he's very active on his side. And she was very surprised about that. This is back in the 30s and 40s when she was with Baba. So Baba is, you know, is very happy to come forward and one step toward him, and he takes 10 steps toward us. Yeah.
I get it, sort of. The sort of part, my fuzziness of this is self-effort. And where's the source, learning source for self-effort? Is it through examples that we've experienced with other people or with our own selves? Or is it trying to struggle with our mind to make us do things, which isn't a very good option? Can you expand on what some details of or examples of a good self-effort?
You're kind of like asking, what is inspiring the self-effort? Where's that coming from, right?
No, inspiration I know, but I don't know how to do it.
But where is it coming from? Anyone can come up with a response to that. I mean, that's the whole, I mean, you know, how do people experience that they get up and they have an enthusiasm for trying to live this life? Where is that coming from? How do you experience that?
Just quickly, in response to Tom's question, I think the section is less prescriptive. It's more suggestive as to what we might do. 1, 2, 3, 4. The beginning of the 5th paragraph is where Darwin seems to make a transition The way that the section is structured, the first 4 paragraphs talk about Darwin's experience of Baba when Baba was in the body. Baba would do this, I would respond this way. It's very much, it's not exactly written in the past tense, but it's about those days. Then in the 5th paragraph, he transitions to us today. So we have to, and he transitions to the present tense very clearly, so we have to keep working in order to retain that inner freedom. So in this way, I think the section is interesting because it provides the bridge between when Baba was in the body and those who were with him, obviously very fortunate and had that immediate response to Baba's presence in the body.
Yeah.
It bridges that, the section bridges that with our situation where Baba is no longer in the body, but yet we are responding to his presence in a different way. And Darwin provides a certain amount of guidance as to what we might experience and what we might have to do in order to be open to Baba's grace. But he can't be as specific as maybe Tom would like him to be, because for each of us, I think that individual work is quite individual. And I think Darwin wants to make that point by being very general in his prescription and not being very specific.
Yeah, very good, Duke. Yeah. And I mean, some of it is just asking, asking for the inspirations, you know, the enthusiasm, asking Baba directly, you know, help me, I'm having trouble with this effort. I would like to be a little more inspired and enthusiastic about the effort. Put that before Baba himself. And he'll give you, you know, he'll give you ways to, he's happy to respond to questions like that. Not only just questions, but with the inspiration that helps. But also, you don't necessarily always feel, you could be kind of a little bit depressed and still make efforts. You don't have to, or, you know, you don't have to be enthusiastic to make efforts. I mean, I think Baba would be very touched that if we're making efforts, even though we don't feel like making efforts. How could Baba not be touched by that? That's the way I feel.
Lots of hands up, yay. And Ruth, go ahead.
Jeff, that phrase, you take one step, Baba takes 10, where did that come from?
You know, I heard it over the years, but I couldn't tell you where.
Sorry to hear that. Thanks.
But just say, Mark Palmer, he was a guy from Chicago. He used to say Baba's 12-step program. You take one step toward him and he takes 11 steps toward you.
I'm here to testify to that. Thank you.
Can I interject that question? I thought that I had heard that it not specific to Baba, but just God in general. And I thought it was somehow from Joseph Campbell that I had heard that. So I don't know if anybody can verify that, but.
About the steps?
Yeah, that you take one step towards God and God takes 10 steps towards you.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's been said in reference to Baba. The Sufis have a saying, you take one step toward him and God runs to you.
I just want to say something quick. The twins, you know, Sorab and the twins actually say it on a video about I don't know if it's about the Northeast East-West Gathering or some similar time event, but they actually say that on film. Baba said, take one step and he'll take 10. So they actually say that.
Okay, good. Thanks, Marvin. Yeah. I know I've heard it in a number of places. Yeah.
And I've also heard many of the Mandali, Erich and Mani in particular, saying that in Mandali Hall on more than one occasion. So quoting Baba. So it definitely came from him at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to amplify the prodigal son story. One of the things that struck me is what you all are talking about. That was so striking. Not only was the prodigal son so remorseful of how he had wasted his inheritance and was so sorry, he was ready to come eat pig slop on the farm of the father. And so when we're at that, you talk about being desperate, when we're ready to take anything from Baba, I think that's what he wants. And the other striking thing is that the father in the prodigal son came running across the field to the approaching son, which they never did back then. So that was a very striking piece of the Jewish tradition story, because the father would never do that. But in this story that Jesus told, the father ran across the field to the son like Baba would to us.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Marge.
Mhm.
Very touching.
If you get in touch with Eric Solobaki, he's, I consider, the quote master of Baba. What Baba says that's what he puts out on his Baba quotes. So he probably would know exactly where that can be located on taking the steps. In response to Tom, for me, one's response lies within. And my experience has always been to take that momentary pause and be aware of where I'm at. And if there's something bothering me, try to do something about it. And usually it's something to do with what's happening around you. I find that to be, for me, the greatest help of all. I mean, I talk to Baba, and basically you're talking to your real self, and your real self will reply. So that's all I've got to say about it.
Yeah. So true, Jack. Yeah.
I can give an example, and my ego is not in this, but when I was a kid, my first thing my dad gave me to do was a day coming back from grammar school. I went up to the saloon, which is a block and a half from where school was. And when I walked in the side door, and I came through, went up into the bar, and he looked at me, and he said, what are you doing here? Because I had never done that before. And I said, no, I just want to see what you do. Oh, he said, well, I serve people. I give them what they wish. Are you? And then I remember distinctly, he said, do you have to be back at, to go home? I said, no, I'm just hanging out, or whatever words I used. He says, oh, well, here's a broom. So, for the next 15 and 20 minutes, I swept the place. He says, now go outside and sweep the sidewalk. And that was a lesson that I felt gave me the what would you call it?
Humility.
Yeah, there was a humility involved in that, but it was more of a confidence in myself that I was able to do that. Not thinking at the time, but later on, when I was in Mehrabad, it kind of really hit home, where when I was walking around the property, this was about the second year I was there, it was about 2005, 2006, I realized that this place really needs to be swept. And I just went and got a stick, and I started picking up all of the cultural throwaways. And I did that. I did that for about 5 years straight, not really considering that I was doing anything good or looking for praise or anything. It was just something that needed to be done. And finally, the locals, the natives, or whatever, stopped doing it. Of throwing paper and plastics and little bags with the snuff in it all over the place. They probably still do, but it was not as evident. And that kind of purpose that one gives oneself of someone to love. No, it wasn't. That's the mantra. Something. No, what is it? Something to do. Oh, yeah, something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to will make you content.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I heard Tom saying, how do I do, how do we do the effort? And I just wanted to get back to the bottom of page 51 was staring out at me as very specific and also very universal. The effort that we can do, one, when Jesus is saying, continue in my word, and ye are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And I know that the seeking of truth, Baba says so many times in so many ways, to seek the truth, like kind of as our true north, both within ourselves and everything around us and everything we perceive. And then, so that would be a how, seek the truth, but then the next sentence goes on to say, through asserting the truth, we banish the false. And that rang so true to me with anything, any kind of trying to change a habit, that rather than focus on not doing what we don't want to do, but just adding things that we do want to do into our life, it pushes out that focus or that connection. Like say if somebody wants to diet, rather than focus on not eating this and not eating that, they focus on eating healthier and healthier foods, and then they find that it diminishes. They want the healthy stuff more than that. So I think, for me, I hear to go for the truth and to assert the truth for me. And of course, it is all individual with Baba. But those are two really kind of universal things that I think point us in that direction of what is our effort.
Yeah, very good example of how to.
And Daniel?
Yeah.
So also back to Tom's question, what I was thinking about with that is, Darwin's, as I read this book and reflect on it, it seems to me Darwin's talking a lot in here about awareness of sanskaras as being, and shining a light on those sanskaras so that we can see them in their more embryonic forms before we're actually acting on them, so that we avoid sort of creating more binding. And that is my reading of what he is saying the fundamental work is, the inner work. So I was thinking about that in terms of, so how do I translate that or try to translate that in my life? And one of the ways I do that, I think of doing that is watching my own triggers. So watching how I sort of emotionally, constrict around certain things that happen to me. So for example, like one of my triggers is around respect and feeling disrespected. And if I feel like something that happens and I take offense at it, I can act that out, and I can certainly do something to reassert my, whatever I think is my, rightful place or what have you. But what I believe is the work, the spiritual work in that, is to watch that trigger and go into the trigger and go into what are the feelings the feelings of hurt or the feelings of shame or the feelings of anger, what have you, and find those feelings and then bring Baba into that. Because he's talking about also keeping a focus on the master and bringing Baba into everything. And so using Baba and the experience of Baba within, to bring him directly into the experience of those feelings, whether it's, shame, anger, sadness, whatever it is, and really sharing that in an inner space with Baba, and doing it to the point to which the trigger starts to subside and start to kind of wear out that trigger through that. So, Tom, that's my response to your question about how to do it. And I'm not saying I've got that perfected, but that's been my understanding, to some extent, my practice.
Yeah, very clear explanation. I think everybody got that. Everybody's dealing with that type of thing.
And Hugh?
Beautiful.
Yeah, going sort of building on Tom's question, what Daniel just said about mention of sanskaras. In the first paragraph, when Darwin says, we do have to do some work in the Augean stables of our subconscious, where our sanskaras sit waiting for expression. And we think of what the Augean stables were. This was the fifth labor of Heracles' 12 labors. And he had to clean out all the horse manure, all the sanskaras from the Augean stables.
For 30 years of it, yeah. Yeah. And he routed a river through the stables, you might say the river of grace, and to clear it all out. You might say Darwin always takes that as the subconscious, to clear it out with his grace. Yeah.
It was 30 years of 3,000 cows pooping in the same place.
Yeah.
Okay. Give everything to Baba. There are many ways of deconditioning the subconscious, where most of our impressions are stored. And different methods work for different people or at different times in our lives. There's no one formula or doctrine to say, do this and you'll get there. In discussions about the ways of the master, generalizing makes for more accessible explanations. But part of the master's role is to make us let go of generalizations. At the same time, he does give us many hints about things we can be doing to cooperate with his help. This reminds me of a time in New York City in 1956 at the Delmonico Hotel. There were quite a few people there, and Baba would have various people, families, groups, and individuals come to his suite of rooms to spend quiet time and sometimes to hear messages or explanations. On one of these occasions, Baba said to my family and to me a theme he was to repeat several times while in America. I quote, one must give everything to Baba. If you really love him, he is in everything and everyone. You belong to him. So keep nothing to yourself. Give it all to Baba and be free. Give your whole self to Baba. Your pain and pleasure is Baba's pleasure. Give it all to Baba. What you feel, Baba feels. It is Baba in you, doing through you, and feeling in you. Baba is the whole universe. Love Baba with all your heart, end quote. Moreover, as I recall, Baba added, quote, this will please Baba, end quote. For me, this was icing on the cake. So thinking that over throughout the years and putting it into practice, I have found this message from Baba to be ever more and more practical. I concluded that Baba meant everything. Our moods, our problems, complexes, our worry, syndrome, our sense of gain and loss, and more of the ego, of course. I discovered that we really can give everything to him and be free inwardly.
Beautiful. I should say that's that's kind of the blueprint of Darwin's whole inner life with Baba. Just those words there. Give everything to Baba and be free. what you feel Baba feels. Very, very deep.
And Leica?
Reminds me of the quote, and I may be paraphrasing, that Baba says, faithfully leave everything to me and I will see to everything. Is that it, Jeff?
Yeah.
And to try to give everything to Baba, to faithfully, truly leave everything to Baba, I find is very, very difficult for so many reasons. But that is really what, he has asked of us. And I think that's what Darwin is referring to, giving everything to him, to truly leave it to him. I don't know, I just keep taking things back that I just, really, really take it, please. But Baba's only asked us to love him and to leave everything to him. But it's deceivingly simple.
Yeah, beautiful. Yep.
Erich, one day it made a very big impression on me that he was using the metaphor of turning to face the sun and to turn yourself to face Baba directly. And when you do that, or you think of that, parts that want to hide will sort of like scurry away or find hidden places. So it's taken a long time for me to give it all enough that I can do that, starting to face him. So Erich would take people who weren't facing toward him, and he'd do this effortful shaking to bring them around to face Erich, face him. So that process is work. And you want to do it. Open your heart, doing it with your full, with a heartfelt feeling that you really want Baba to see the mess that you are.
Yeah, beautiful.
This reading reminded me and touched my heart in the memory of something that I haven't thought of in a long time. And somehow I feel nudged to share it. And it was shortly after, it was in 1969, shortly after I had come to Baba. And I was quite young then. And I thought, well, Baba's the avatar. What do I have? What do I have? And really, I had almost nothing of any material value. And I thought, I have my life. That's what I can offer. And I thought, I am going to bet it all. I am going to bet all my chips and put them on Baba. And if I'm wrong, what am I going to lose? I'm going to lose my life. It really was all I had. I just graduated, not even graduated. I was a senior at Berkeley, and pretty close to penniless. But I thought, if I lose, I'm losing my life. But if I'm right, if he truly is God incarnate, what will I gain? And remembering that today, as we read this passage of give it all, and I think back of the life that Baba has given me, which I had no idea. I had no idea 30 years ago when I went over to spend 6 months volunteering at Mehrabad that I would end up being there almost 15 years with his dear close Mandali that I think I barely knew they existed when I thought of that. And anyway, I just, as Eric used to say, and it's like straight from my heart this time, I'm just beholden to him. And I'm so grateful that for whatever divine reason, he put it in me to decide there and then I was going to bet every chip I had on Baba. Thank you, Baba.
Beautiful, Judy. Rumi has a line, gambling away the self is beyond every religion.
Yeah.
Hopefully a little bit of the self has worn away in this process.
You can be sure.
And Robin, go ahead.
Throughout this discussion, which I think has been great, I keep thinking about the original question and the answer, and that every single thing that we ever want or anything that motivates or inspires us is really just us trying to answer the question. And somehow it is individual, I think, but it's always working. That's always the force, I think, that's going on. So that's all. It just kept running through my mind this whole time, so I thought I'd say it.
Hey, just before the end, I don't know if I shared how Darwin, in a very low-key fashion, kind of brought home to us what it is about what it is to give to Baba, way back in 1970. But there may be other hands up.
We have a couple hands up.
Yeah.
Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a dilapidated piece of paper that I have carried around with me as long as I can remember. It's a quote from Baba. I love you. Don't worry about your weaknesses. Eventually they will go. Even if they linger, love will someday consume them. Everything disappears in the ocean of love. Because I love you, you have a pool of love within you. When you feel wretched, when you fall in your weaknesses, have a dip in that pool of love. Refresh yourself in that pool of my love within you. It is always there. Even if you wash your weaknesses every day in that pool, it will remain clear. So don't worry. Baba loves you. That is what really matters.
Yeah. Great quote.
Yeah.
Beautiful quote.
And Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yes. So when Leica was speaking, I thought of a quote that was given to me by Adele Wolkin. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is a picture of Adele with Mayor Baba at the center near a car. And on the back of this, she said, to his one and only, and then you would insert your own name, whoever you are. He reminds you that when you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you will get relief from all your predicaments, as I am the ocean of love and compassion, Avatar Meher Baba. She wrote that for me December 27th, 2009, but it's the same type of thing of giving everything to Baba.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I don't know if I have mentioned this on the, I can't remember from, you know, but anyway, you know, this buddy of mine and I, we wound up being in Schenectady. It was just seemingly by chance. And Darwin got us a couple of jobs at the local nursing home, the county nursing home, and it was back-breaking, exhausting work. And back in those days, those who had met Baba, they'd stressed two things. Darwin and Jean weren't so big on, I mean, they didn't get, but all the older ones, to, you know, to be wholehearted, live in the world and carry out your responsibilities wholeheartedly, and remember Baba constantly. And so we headed off with that on our banner, and we went off to this nursing home. And we found it very difficult to do the work, which was like they were shorthanded, do the work and remember Baba at the same time. It was like impossible. In fact, for me, I'd have to go down the hall to the bathroom and lock the door and just stand there and remember Baba, you know, and then I'd go back on the floor and I'd get swallowed up by the work. And so after a month of this buddy of mine, Ken Rickstead, and we told Darwin, we were not able to do the work and remember Bob at the same time. And so Darwin just said, maybe you need to create a little more inner space. Now, we didn't know, we had read everything of Baba's, by and about Bob up to that point, and we'd never heard that phrase, but we were kind of too shy to say we didn't know, you know, inner space, you know. And then he quoted this thing on giving all to Baba, which is, one must give everything to Baba if you really love him. He is in everything and everyone. You belong to him, so keep nothing to yourself. Give it all to Baba and be free. You know, the quote that we read. So he shared that. So we went off to work the next day because the meetings were on Sunday, so Monday. And I would have this overwhelming feeling of dread that I would wake up with. I mean, it was like consuming. But normally by 11 o'clock, it would dissipate, you know, but it was horrible, the early morning and everything, but it would dissipate. So I started giving this dread to Baba. But what would happen is that I would get to 11 o'clock and it would just continue. And the dread would continue all the way to the end of the day. And I'd wake up in the dread, with the dread the next morning. And I'd be giving that to Baba throughout the day. It wouldn't go. And it went on for a month. And it didn't get any better. And I was thinking, well, I'm just going to discontinue this. Either I don't know how to give this to Baba, or I'm giving it to him and taking it back. So I said, I'll just discontinue it. And Darwin wasn't pushing anything like this. So anyway, we were going out to the cafeteria with Darwin and Jean. And at the front of the line, there are these dinner plates that are spring loaded. You know, you take one plate up and another one pops up. You take away a plate and another one pops up. And Baba flashed this to me as I was in line there. He said, you're giving me, you know, a plate of your dread, and you look down and there's no change. And you give me another plate and there's no change. You know, and meanwhile, you're giving plates, it seems like there's no change, but meanwhile, the stack is diminishing unseen below. So Baba convinced me, this was just a flash that he gave me. He convinced me, just go ahead. Even if you're not seeing any results, just keep doing it. So I did. So then later on, I described this to Darwin. And this is what Darwin said. He said, Baba is impressionless being. He is the ocean. Whatever you give to him is gone forever. But it's only one layer. I mean, you say I gave some dread to him. That's gone forever, but there's a layer behind it that looks just like it. So it doesn't seem like you gave anything, but then give the next layer. And little bit by bit, you give layer upon layer. But he said, that's one thing, that's not the most important thing that's happening here. He said, as you give things to Baba and he dissolves them, it makes more room, and they're emptied out of you, it makes more room for Baba to live in you. You are creating inner space. You're creating inner space. So we went back to work, and you know, we continued that, and eventually we were able to do the work wholeheartedly and feel Baba at the same time. We had both of them under the same roof. I didn't have to go down the hallway. But this is how, in a very unassuming way, he told us, convinced, he kind of conveyed that this giving that with Baba really happens. It seems like you can't go on results, but if you keep at it, eventually Baba has more room to live in you, and you create that inner space that Daniel was talking about, where you can actually see a little bit about the interior and how to avoid certain things. You start to see your sanskaric makeup, and you can avoid certain things. So you get a little more spaciousness. And Kitty used to say, her favorite line in the Bible, "Not I, but Christ liveth in me." So you get the experience of Baba, a little bit more and more that Baba's living your life. And as Darwin used to say, and I've said this many times here, sooner or later you discover you're nobody. And that is not an unhappy discovery. You're a shell, and Baba is the one who lives. So anyway, that's what Darwin, that was back in 1970, made such a profound, that became one of the themes of my life, inner life with Baba. Yeah. Oh, hey, we're almost at 7 o'clock. Any other?
I have no hands up, so I think it's a good time for a moment of silence.
Okay. Jai Baba. Hey, thank you, Baba. Thank you, Darwin.
I just wanted to add to your story, Jeff, this feeling I have about the, giving things to Baba and be free, and how it's like a two-step process. It's not give it to Baba and then be free. It's you have to give it to Baba and then make a second choice to be free of the guilt or the feeling of shame or whatever it is when you encounter that next plate layer of whatever it is that you gave over to Baba. And it just was for me, I found that helpful insight, and wanted to share that in case it was helpful for others. The idea that, it's a choice to be free after you've given it to Baba, knowing full well that you will possibly encounter it again.
And that dread still, there's no end to the dread in a certain way, but it's a camaraderie. After a while, the process becomes fulfilling, and the result, getting rid of the dread, becomes minor. In other words, I've got something on my premises that I can give to Baba. It creates a camaraderie that is worth more than results. That's what I found, yeah.
And
Jeff,
Jeff, for me, this is Judy.
Yeah.
What came up for me in that story, it was something about the wording of unseen hand below, brought back to me the story that Mani often told about the potter out near Marazad in Pimplegown village. And he had this big wooden paddle and would strike the pot to be that he was creating really hard from the outside. And what she would point out is that simultaneously, the unseen hand of the potter, like the unseen hand of God, was inside, supporting the process of the sort of beating away of our sanskars, if you will. She would wouldn't usually call them that, but that unseen hand of the Lord that is supporting us inwardly as we go through this rather rough and tumble process of getting rid of the layers of samskaras or whatever it is we're dealing with.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you remembered that. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Jack if he had the source of the quotation that he gave us. The one you read from your tattered paper.
I know it's one that's floating around, but I don't know if Jack is hearing.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. If somebody knows, but I can't remember. I mean, I've read it many times, but I don't know where. Anything else to chime in with?
Jeff, your analogy of that stack of plates is very powerful. You know, I've heard you say that once before somewhere, and it's been super helpful for me.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. No.
One of the other things I found is also that when you give something to Baba, it's not like, it's just like you said, it's not like it'll disappear. But I have found that Baba brings up situations and he expedites those situations so that you have the opportunity to give them to Baba. And some of them can be super painful because they are so hard set for so many of our lifetimes. You know, an example is like, I have this pride of power and pride of knowledge at work, and from out of nowhere, he brought up this situation where I had, this pride totally shattered, and giving that to Baba was very painful. Going through that whole situation was extremely painful, but I felt Baba much more closer during that time than any other time. So he brings up those situations where you can actually give that to him.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, and it's very piecemeal. It's like I've quoted before, Eric used to say, spiritual progress is very, 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 very gradual. 4 varies. And it's just because it's just very piecemeal. But after many, many years, a lot of things that used to really bother me don't bother me so much. But there's many of them are still there, but they don't bother me as much. Yeah. Anyone else to chime in with anything? We're out here in outer space together, dangling from clouds.
Stuart, why don't you Stuart had his hand up, Jeff. You might want to speak. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Stuart.
Yeah, I'm struck with the last sentence of the first paragraph in the section. If I'm reading it right, hearing it right, at the same time, he does give us many hints about things we can be doing to cooperate with his help. So if I'm reading that right, the help is coming along and he gives us hints of ways that we can cooperate with the help he's giving.
Yeah. These are great insights that are just woven into this. Where are you? I don't see you though.
I'm here.
Wow. You know what? You wouldn't feel like doing a heart-centered meditation, would you? Is that a little bit?
I think a little too much right now, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay. Stu has a heart-centered meditation with Baba that is so liberating, so helpful.
Jeff, I would be open to doing that.
Well, the thing is that it's up to Stu. Yes, he's the one who has a beautiful way of. But I'm not gonna, Stu. That it's. I'm not putting any pressure on you. You know.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'd love to take a rain check. You know, it's like 15 or 20 minutes to go through it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel prepared right now.
Yeah, but it is well worth the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Why
thank
don't we schedule something with Stu?
Yeah, well, maybe sometime after the Effort and Grace, we might be, and if you're up for it, Stu, and we can just do it spontaneously. But if it kind of strikes you on a particular session afterwards, you know, just let us know.
Okay. Yeah, or you know, maybe I can plan toward a day to do it. You know, to offer it.
Yeah. All these things are great help in kind of dissolving a lot of those blocks so we can flow. You know, we can flow. Sometime we're going to get into a part where Darwin talks about this inner current in each of us. And he said the inner current of most people is going toward me, I, me, and mine, and it has to be reversed and flow out to the world and flow into Baba. And we'll get into that because that is something, an invaluable method that Darwin shares. I think it comes a little later in the book. Any questions? Or I like to ask Jeremy sometimes what's going on.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, everyone.
Anything to say, Jeremy? Like the young people because they whatever, there's a freshness. Yeah.
You know, I guess I've not really related to Effort and Grace per se, but I've just been thinking a lot about Baba lovers and how we can relate to all that's going on in the world right now. And it was something that I know other Baba lovers are thinking about and was brought up at RT last night and probably in other conversations too. So that's kind of where my mind has been at recently, and trying to think about, you know, I'm sure everyone has ideas about what Baba is doing or not doing through all the protests and all the transformation in people's minds and hearts about race and everything, and about like what we can do about it. But that's kind of, and I don't know, I don't have any conclusions yet.
Yeah.
But that's just been sort of forefront in my mind.
Swirling around in you.
Yeah. There's a lot, I mean, you know, people my age, there's a lot of confusion, anger, rage, frustration, and also a lot of self-righteousness and ego wrapped up in a lot of even people who are fighting for justice. And it's disheartening for me to see, because it's like, it's like I want to be part of that and support people, but also it's like on all sides there are people who are like succumbing to anger and to all that stuff. But I don't know. I guess I just feel like Baba is just like bringing out so much in everyone, and I feel like I've just been sort of trying to observe things and like watch carefully and observe the patterns and see how people are changing, but not really been wanting to like be an exact, like right in the middle of the dialogue and everything. So I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts about any of this, or if now is the right forum, but since you asked, that's where my mind has been, Jeff.
Yeah, and you're right there in New York City, so
yeah,
you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
We're down here in Myrtle Beach, and there's nothing much happening except people going to the beach. That's about it. You know?
Yeah.
Seeing as Jeff wanted to hear from more young people, I thought I'd speak up.
Yeah.
One thing that might come out of this time we're living through, this pandemic and all of this violence and racial hatred and all of that, this time we're living in, one positive thing, if we can imagine a positive thing coming out of this, could be that people will become more interdirected. Maybe people will, once we get through all of this, reevaluate their relationship with Maya, pull those tentacles back in maybe a little bit, be more interdirected. I think we're all going through a process, all of us going through a process that is transitional right now, and that we're likely, this might be too optimistic, but it's good to end on an optimistic note. I think we're likely to come through this in a better place, all of us, because we'll reassess our relationship with the external world and become more interdirected. At least that's my hope.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it's not to have the good life, it's to turn to God, and we'd like to, a lot of people like to have the good life and just come back and perpetuate it, but then we'd never leave this place.
Well, in a way, if I can address Jeremy's point, this is Verste. I'm kind of thinking, what kind of world are we leaving for the next generation? Us old fogies are looking at the exit door sooner or later. And I would like to, see how young people are feeling and reacting to all of this. And it must be very confusing time because they still have a life ahead of them, children to bear, homes to build or buy, things we've all been there and done that. And yet, we don't expect our young people to sit in a cave and work on their sanskaras. They still have to, live their life. So I can definitely understand the confusion and frustration and anger and all these things that must be bubbling up to the surface. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems like that we need to allow for a forum for those thoughts and ideas to come forth.
Beautiful. Hey,
as the Baba community.
Have a Hafiz poem just on hand here.
Oh, great. I knew that was coming.
Great translations of Hafiz, and they're coming from the well of eternity. Hafiz was, we'll wait till we come to the end, and we'll finish with Hafiz.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Could I say something to Jeremy?
Yeah.
The only part that I wanted to speak to was the part about the racism and the riots that are going on and the protests that are going on right now. And I haven't been able to talk to anybody about it. But I had a friend call me today, an African-American friend that I've had for 25 years that I worked with. And my heart welled when she called. And we were able to talk about it. She was able to talk about what her experience is as a African-American woman in the workplace and seeing things around her that she couldn't quite deal with, and seeing racism that she's accepted for years at work that she's going to stand up to now. And I was able to come beneath her, with wings saying, yeah, go, it's time. So I don't talk about it because my heart is there and it's there very strongly. And so I had to speak to someone of color so that I could be able to hear something authentic and something that she lives every day, having a number of sons and grandchildren. So thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you.
I too, can I just jump in here? I was really glad that you brought it up, Jeremy. It was a very intense and heartfelt session last night after Artie. And obviously, we need to address it and maybe create a meeting around it, or big feelings. And it's our young people who we appreciate that energy, and spirits. So
Yeah, it's interesting, women's voting didn't come until the women were on the streets. The Vietnam War didn't end until the people were on the streets. Blacks being able to vote, civil rights, didn't it? These things can have the potential to make some substantial change for the
Martin Luther King walking across the bridge.
Yeah.
That's right. It didn't happen until people got in the street.
Yeah.
And it's all over the world.
Yeah.
It's not just here.
Yeah.
I just think something much deeper is happening now than any of that, though. Like, it's because it's not just about like a simple law that can change of like someone being able to vote or get married or marriage equality.
No, you're right.
There's not to discount any of what you said. More just to add to it. I just think that like it's really getting to the core of like these differences between people, and it's something that can't just be solved by like a government body, voting a law into effect. Like it's something that's happening, I think, internally between everyone and Baba and between everyone and everyone else. But it's also like the thing that I struggle with is that as Baba lovers, we have our own understanding of why there's suffering in the world and why we all have to come back and experience all these different things. And also like maybe don't give as much emphasis to the superficial differences between people, like skin color and everything. And for me, it can be hard to like reconcile that view of the world that Baba gave us with the view of the world that others have, like our family, our friends, coworkers, etc., who may not share those views that we have because we know Baba, and they only see like justice on the gross plane and injustice on the gross plane. And it's like, how do we engage with that? Even, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to satisfy your friend who is an atheist to tell them, look, like we've all been there and we all have to be there again, like in terms of like experiencing suffering. And also like,
how are you reconciling that, Jeremy? How are you going about that?
I'm not really. I mean, I think that I'm more just trying to validate people in whatever they feel,
Yes.
Like, and I don't know, like, I think trying to like vent my own frustrations with people that I think will understand, my family, other Baba lovers, etc., and not put extra burdens on people who can't or don't want to handle it. But yeah, I mean, I'm asking this because I don't know what to do.
Well, it also sounds.
Yes, I've wondered, is anybody reaching out to the Race Path community?
I don't know if that is happening. I mean,
I wanted to throw that out. If there's some way, they probably don't have a bunch of computers, but it would just be wonderful if they could be on some virtual meetings.
Yeah.
I can say something to Jeremy. Jeremy, this morning I listened to Krista Tippett on Point on Being.
I love her.
She had a Black author on that goes so deep into how these things are built into our bodies. And if you can get that on the podcast, I think you would absolutely get a lot out of it. It was really deep and inspiring and enlightening.
Thanks, Bobby.
7:00 Sunday morning. This is an excellent program. Yeah. Hey, well, where's...
You can listen anytime on the podcast.
Yeah. So shall we ask Ferris State? Or any other comments? Otherwise...
Jeff, I had something I wanted to say to Jeremy. It's like, hi, Jeremy, and everybody. I've struggled a lot during my life with um, right about what something that Baba calls right relation to others, and how to be with others. And I think that there's so much going on right now within each and every one, whether they're conscious of it or not conscious of it. There's so many positive and beautiful things happening at this time of turmoil. And of course, the turmoil, the punches keep coming. There's the virus, there's tornadoes, there's a cyclone, there's a murder in front of everybody, there's our president, they keep coming. But where I find my stability, and if I can stand in my truth with Baba, with others, that it helps them, and with love, and just, asking what would love do, what would kindness do, what would compassion do within each circumstance.
Beautiful.
And there's a stability that gives me within myself, so that my mind isn't going wondering, and not to say that it doesn't run out there on the end of a leash wondering, and I have to pull it back and get in that place of kindness and compassion and stability, and calling myself on my own egocentric, reactions. But there's a stability and a strength in Baba in that. And I find that just doing that, no matter what the reaction may be in the moment, it helps others too, to find that place in them. Anyway, I hope that's
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Jesus said, "What would love do now?"
Jeremy, I really appreciate your also speaking to being kind of the witness.
Yeah. Saying that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's hear from Hafiz.
All right.
I might even ask you to read it again if I need to take it in a second time.
Sure.
I'm gonna mute everybody except Farishte for this, okay? And then because I've heard some extraneous noises, so I'll just do that. Farishte?
Unmuted. A lot of people are asking me to read the Farsi too, so I'll read a couple of lines of the Farsi. خلوت گزیده را به تماشا چه حاجت است چون کوی دوست هست به صحرا چه حاجت است جانا به حاجتی که تو را هست با خدای آخر دمی بپرس که ما را چه حاجت است. What is the use of traveling for pleasure for one who has chosen solitude? Where is the need for seeking the prairie when the neighborhood of the friend is at hand? Since you have a standing inquiry with God, O soul. I can still hear somebody rustling. Let's see. Elizabeth's iPad. Sorry, it just interferes. Since you have a standing inquiry with God, O soul, with your last breath, ask him what our request should be of him. O merciful King, we are on fire for God's sake. Ask for once, what is the appeal of this mendicant to be? We are so skilled in petitioning God, yet we have no tongue for asking. What is the need for begging at the door of the most benevolent? The illumined face of the friend is the very seat of omniscience. What is the need to express one's need before him? There was a time I had to bear the burden of praying homage to sea captains to take me on board their ships. What is the need for the sea when the real pearl is at hand? O hypocrite, go away, for I have no dealings with you. When friends are present, what is the need for enemies? There is no need to wage war if you intend for my blood. Whatever I have belongs to you. So what is the need for pillaging? O beggarly lover, when the beloved offers you his life-giving, soul-bestowing lips, what is the need to beg for an insignificant and obligatory payment? O Hafez, stop now and let your poetic skill speak for itself. What is the need to argue and fight with the hypocrite? Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. I'm gonna unmute everybody.
It's 7:30.
Did we lose Jeff in the bliss of Hafez?
I like that. I mean, I'm trying to find, oh, shoot. I don't know. Oh, yeah, here we are. Yeah. Oh, man. I have a little trouble with computers, folks. Yeah. Well, I think you're probably all a little bit hungry and all that. I know Shraddha isn't because she's in Seattle and you know, she's not even coming up to dinner time yet. But I think everybody else is on the East Coast. Oh, no, not Babs. She's in Costa Rica. What time is it there?
5:30.
Huh?
5:30.
Oh, yeah, you're getting, yeah. So you're kind of East Coast, West Coast time.
Yeah.
I see. So anyway, I think wonderful to see all you, and we'll see.
Hi.
Hey, okay.
There's Mayor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, well,
Love you.
there it is. Everybody wave to these.
Yay!
There it is. Baba has shown up.
Stay here.
Yes. I don't know if I've quoted this, but there's a line from Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, who was kind of basically the poet or laureate during Baba's era. But he said, every child brings with it the message that God will never forsake mankind. They bring that innocence and purity and fun and wonder around us.
Who's that?
Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore. It's interesting. He was like, one of the great poets of India, and he was asked who he took Baba to be, Meher Baba. And in northern India, the name for Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is Thakur, Thakur, Thakur. And so Rabindranath Tagore said, I am Tagore, but he is Thakur.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to eat some dinner, and I hope you all do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Loves in the door.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Baba.
I'm going to read the book all week.
Baba Ki Jai. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you again.